Good morning and welcome to Leaders Up Close. This is a program sponsored by the UCF Engineering Leadership and Innovation Institute. I'm Tim Cotner, I'm director of that institute. We thank Duke Energy for supporting this seminar series. Today we are very honored to have Brian Crutcher share his story with us. He's a senior vice president with Texas Instruments. He's also an alumni of ours. He's an athlete, he was an athlete here at UCF. And he's going to share his story and advice, as you can read, how to go from the classroom to the cube. So please help me welcome Brian Crutcher. Welcome.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Good afternoon. I appreciate you guys joining me, and I'm really excited to be here. It's a topic I'm pretty passionate about, and hopefully I can maybe share a few nuggets of information to really help you transition from the classroom to the professional world, and see if I can help you guys make that transition a bit more smoother. Today I wanted to really try to give you a little bit of my personal perspective on leadership, and also try to help you, again, try to make the move to a cubicle or into the work world just a little bit less daunting, because I'll share a few stories. It was a little bit daunting for me when I made that transition. So I want to cover a few things. Number one, how do you be a leader from the start? From the very first day you walk in the door, whether that's at a big company, a startup, or anything else, you can actually do that. Two, know what your dreams are, what you're passionate about, and put some type of plan in place to figure out how to get there. Third, at the end of the day, it's all about results and playing to win. And regardless of what type of company or trick or trade you play in, you're going to really, really want to play to win, and I'll talk a bit more about that. Lastly, I'll spend a little bit of time on what I truly look for in leaders. And again, I don't have the perfect game plan or the perfect definition for what leadership looks for, but there are some traits and things that I personally look for as a leader at Texas Instruments to ensure that we're hopefully picking the right leaders for our future. So let's go ahead and move forward. Anybody, who do you look as a leader? Is there some person? Is there someone that you look at in the real world that you see as a leader? Anybody? Tim? So anyone can be a leader, and I think there's probably a misconception out there that you have to be a CEO, a senior manager, a head football coach, some position of power to actually lead. And I think there's a few definitions out there, but to me, I think it can be done at every level of the organization, with or without ownership or a reporting structure that's into you. But I think it really starts with every level of the organization and really ordinary people trying to get extraordinary work done. And that's truly, to me, what leadership's all about. And I'll talk a bit more about that as we move forward. If I look at my very first days in the workforce, that's actually a real picture. So that's a picture as you walk into Texas Instruments, the building that I work in. And you can't even see the end of the hall, right? It's actually over a quarter-mile long. There's this main hallway that we call the spine. And there are actually seas of cubicles all over the place. Regardless if you turn left, right, or center, you will see a lot of them. And to me, that was extremely daunting the first day I walked in there. But hopefully, by the time I get through the presentation, you'll understand there are ways to go attack that fear and ways to actually overcome that and don't feel like you're just in a sea of cubes. Some of my first fears, I have 2 or 3 that are really, really ingrained in my head, and let me share a few stories around those. The first one was around asking questions. And if you're not comfortable asking questions, you won't learn and you won't lead over time. And so to me, it's a big thing, getting over that fear of asking questions of people inside your organization and outside your organization. The big story for me is around setting and leading meetings. You will be asked, regardless of your position, to lead and set meetings. And I can remember the exact room the first time I had to lead a meeting and lead an initiative and ensure that there was an outcome. And I actually did horrible. I can remember every person that was in that meeting. I can remember everything that went down in that meeting. I learned pretty quickly that if I don't own the meeting, kick it off, cover the agenda, keep it on time, and drive true actions at the end and ownership at the end of that meeting to close it out, it can go in 50 million directions. And so my very first meeting in leading in that session wasn't very good, but I actually learned very, very quickly how to work through that. Last but not least was presenting. I had a huge fear of presenting. Well, that was presenting to one person or 1,000 people. Today, I do it all the time. But I got through that. I took classes. I had plenty of times where I was videotaped and could critique myself, and I actually practiced. All right, and so if you're not a PowerPoint junkie today, I would recommend you learn it and learn it quickly. Okay, that's one nugget of information. Secondly, know your content and practice. If you practice, you'll actually do much, much better, and the presentation will come off smoothly. I didn't do any of those things when I first started, and hopefully, that's what I'm here today, is to really share some of those nuggets of information on how to maybe get through some of those fears a little bit quicker than I did, and hopefully be a lot more successful even than I was during that initial first year of time. I still go back to, there are many, many ways in which you can be a leader from the very first day you walk in the door, and truly, if nothing else, get noticed. Because whether it's a small company or a big company, you want to make an impact and get noticed. So there's a few things that I wanted to talk about first and foremost. Build relationships. Opportunities come to those who are known. If you hide in your single cube and don't get out of your cube, that's probably a recipe for disaster. Your ability to build relationships, again, inside your organization and outside, are absolutely critical. Up and down the organization will ensure that you get not only maybe your first leadership opportunity, but potentially even more in the future. The next two kind of go together. Listen and be extremely curious. That's what great leaders do. Great leaders don't just bark orders from the top. Leaders actually listen. They're extremely curious on other people's views and really ask thoughtful and challenging questions. That's actually the number one thing I look for from new college grads that come into our company. And last year at Texas Instruments, actually, of our new hires in the year, actually over 50% of our new hires were from college. And what I look for is, are they willing to challenge the status quo? Are they willing to ask those tough questions and really make us think differently, right? And that's a form and a sign of leadership, someone that's willing to step out and challenge that status quo and start leading from the start. The next one is really seek out feedback. I talk about to new college grads very, very often about you own your career. Don't wait for someone else to offer the feedback. Ask for it. You own 51% of your personal development. Your manager owns 49%. So you must take the lead and lead your future in those discussions and getting that feedback over time. But please don't ask for the feedback if you don't have a desire to learn and grow and get better. I'm talking a bunch of UCF Knights today, so I got to believe I don't have to worry about that one. But there are going to be many, many, many opportunities for you within the organization you're in to go to different training opportunities, areas outside of your expertise or areas that maybe you're just interested in. Really take that first year or so to take advantage of those opportunities. They're going to be there. That is the best and the most unique time to really go off and leverage those for your potential future, okay? Last but not least, your communication skills will go a long way. That's written, that's verbal, that's all the types of communication ways that you can use. Please, don't walk into the work world the first day and start using half sentences like you use on Twitter or on Facebook. That communication won't last very long. Be correct, communicate correctly, communicate clearly, and be succinct. I can guarantee you the way you communicate not only affects the way you can lead people, but also the interpretation of what you're trying to get across. So please really, really think about the way you communicate and practice how you communicate. I actually used to look at every message before I sent an email, and I read it 2 or 3 times before I sent it. Number one is as succinct and as small as I can get it, because honestly today, everybody's on these things. My general rule is if I can't read it within 1 finger scroll down, I'm probably not going to read it for a while. okay? So you have to believe that's kind of the mentality and the behavior that most human beings have today. So really think about how do you concisely communicate what you want, what you need, and what the expectation is from the person or persons receiving that communication. But you will, during that first year, have questions. Am I in the right place? Did I pick the right job? And to me, you know, the way I gauge it is you should be hopping out of bed every day to go to work because you love what you do, you're passionate, and you've got a ton of pride about the company you're working for and the things that you're working on, right? And so if you're not, I call that the 5 snooze rule. And that's not because you stayed out too late, you know, hanging out with your friends. That's truly, I hit the snooze bar 5 times, there's a problem. Okay, so that's one of my nuggets of information. If anyone in my organization, I plead for them to come to me and talk to me about the role they're in if they hit the snooze bar 5 times. Because that means they're not excited to come to work, they're not jumping out of bed, ready to come make an impact at the workplace, and we'll find a different role. So please, don't let that 5 snooze rule go on for too long. Okay, so please, really, really think about it and ensure that you're happy because everyone will be much, much more successful if you're not hitting that snooze bar. Now let's switch a little bit of a topic to, you know, it doesn't matter if you're playing sports, which, you know, I had the luxury to play football here at UCF many, many years ago. And you're probably wondering, man, that guy's pretty small. What the heck did he play? The good news is I was pretty fast. So that helps when you're playing a receiver and defensive back. So I actually played defensive back while I was here. But the fact is, it doesn't matter if it's a sport, an instrument, or even if you're watching the Olympics last week, right? Those guys have a relentless attitude. You know, if I lose, I go home. I have a one shot to make this thing happen. And that's really what I'm talking about when I talk about playing to win. Couple comments here. I talked about developing yourself and you owning 51%. I'd also ask that you spend the majority of your time leveraging your strengths. Make your strengths even stronger. Of course, you can always work on weaknesses and areas for improvement, but as a leader, I'm constantly looking for the strengths in myself and the strengths that I can surround myself to basically cover up those weaknesses and make a great team. So basically having better teammates around me to make us as one whole a much stronger team. The second thing that I look for in playing to win is results matter. Okay, so you can't lead if you can't put up results. All right, so keep score in whatever you do. Find a way to gauge your progress, whether it's your very first job or if it's leading a team or anything else. Know the score and keep it in front of yourself and the team very, very frequently. The last area I talk about is, and maybe this is a little bit edgy, be competitive as hell. Okay? The work world today is competitive, whether that's getting your first job or competing to put financials on the scoreboard as a company. So I look for people that are competitive as hell and hate to lose. Right? The joy of winning is great, and we can go do that. But for me, if you don't hate to lose and get really pissed off about it, you're probably not going to be a great leader. So I really, really look for extremely competitive people. Last but not least, shut up and put up. There's a lot of people that can go try to lead a team and set all these objectives and talk a lot. Right? It's easy to talk. Okay, but what I look for is putting up the results. Okay? Do what you say you're going to do. As an employee for the first time in a company, that's the very first thing I'm going to look for. Are you doing what you say you're going to do? And are you doing it when you said you're going to do it? And creating those results that we're talking about. You will create leadership opportunities by being creative, by being competitive, and really putting up the results. Talk all you want when you can celebrate. To me, that's what it's all about. The bullet I don't have up here is celebrate. right? There's way too many times, and even today with me and my teams, where I don't believe we celebrate enough. You know, winning's hard. If winning was easy, everybody'd be doing it, right? But regardless if you're at a startup or at a large corporation, find the opportunities to celebrate, and as a leader, they will respect you more by not being a constant driver, but also being able to celebrate the successes along the way. You will build a lot of followership and leadership if you do that, okay? I gotta believe everybody has some passion and pride for some things. Maybe that's certain subjects, maybe that's certain types of engineering, or other maybe business topics. What I'd ask you to do, leaders and employees need to be passionate about some things and ensure your role lines up with that. You won't lead and you won't perform unless your passions and your pride and desire truly, truly line up with the job that you have at hand. Last but not least, on this slide particularly, be passionate enough to take a stand, right? It's very, very easy to walk the middle line, be on the fence, and not share your opinion. That's probably one of the second or third most important things I look for from new employees and potential leaders. Are they willing to take a side, have facts to back up that side, and be really, really, really passionate about that and stick to your guns? So I really, really look for that. I can think back even when I started off as a technical sales engineer, and I can remember about a year and a half in, taking a side in a pretty big forum in front of my manager and my manager's manager and my teammates about where I thought we could potentially invest or put more time and investment in to be extremely successful. And that was actually, at TI, we have two big pieces of our product portfolios. We have analog and digital. And I can remember 15 years ago pushing extremely hard on accelerating our analog position. I'm looking at a fellow TR in the back. It actually wasn't as popular at the time, but it actually allowed me to lead for the first time after that. The good news is I brought up an issue or a problem that I was passionate about, and what a lot of people will do, they'll give that opportunity for you to go lead. So you see this problem, guess what? You get to go lead fixing that problem. So that was actually my first opportunity to go lead a team to go attack the space, the product space I was extremely, extremely passionate about. And so it's okay to bring up issues, areas of conflict, because that actually could be your opportunity to raise your hand to take an initiative or a project to really go prove that out. So that was a great example of where it actually worked for me and enabled me to lead very, very early on and actually make an impact on the company where that product space now at Texas Instruments is the largest that we have in the company, and we're #1 in the world in that product space. So really, really cool opportunity. Hopefully I had something to do with the position that we have today, but it was an opportunity, again, to raise my hand and almost volunteer for that opportunity to go lead. The last area I want to talk a little bit about is know where you want to go, okay? And that may not be the first day you walk on the company's campus or in the company's small office, but what I'd ask you to do is really ask questions and understand, seek to understand where you want to go in the future. Understand your strengths and figure out what your future wants to be. You own your destiny. Don't wait for someone else to do that for you. Within that journey, though, I'd ask that you trust your manager. You know, I can tell you, I moved at Texas Instruments. I physically moved 7 times in the first 10 years of my career. I did that because they were giving me new and different opportunities to lead and do different things, but ultimately I trust my management team, and I trusted my manager who asked me and thought this was a great move for me to go do. I'm not asking you to go move 7 times in 10 years, but I do think it's extremely, extremely valuable to share your plan with your manager, ensure it lines up with your strengths that I talked about earlier, and really have an action plan and a roadmap to enable you to get to that new position. Communicate regularly with your manager and with your team to understand where you stand, because even a small tweak to your roadmap can make a huge difference and where your career ends up 5, 10, 15, potentially years down the road. So that feedback and understanding if you're still on track, if this still leverages your strengths and truly will make you be the best person you could be at that company is something you have to share and something you have to have direct feedback around. Because actually later in your career, you will continue to set different visions, different missions, and lead different teams that you're going to need to be able to do that and execute on it, as we talked about earlier. So really a great, great opportunity for you to lead and know your path as you move through your career. This one's a little bit off base, but I thought it'd be something that would be interesting for you to understand. I was pretty naive going out of college and into the work world of what an organizational structure means, how it operates, how they all intertwine, how they affect each other. So I call this topic, Know Your Boss, okay, because there's a few reasons behind that. Know how your boss is measured and really how the teams are organized. Because if you understand how your boss is measured, you could be completely tied in on initiatives and ensure that your job is actually contributing to the success of how your boss is measured, right? That's a good thing, trust me. Secondly, know what the priorities are for the team and actually get engaged in those. Again, understand how you tie into those priorities, and if you don't feel like you're tied in enough, offer up some of your own personal time to get more involved in those priorities. The more tightly coupled you are to the organization's priorities, the bigger impact you will see, and the bigger impact your boss will see as well, because he's watching those priorities. Know your boss's boss. And that doesn't mean the first day you show up, you go, okay, this is my boss, and who's your boss? Because I want to go meet him. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is back to understand where they want to go, where the organization is trying to move, and back to how do you contribute to the organization and the priorities of those folks. And what I was really naive about was not too many bosses make a personnel decision without their boss knowing, particularly putting someone in a leadership role. So I see a few people nodding in here. So if your boss's boss doesn't know anything about you, or you haven't made enough impact to their priorities, the likelihood of them giving you the nod goes down pretty dramatically. So ensure you're tied in with them, the priorities that they have, and make sure you can make a name for yourself inside the organization all the way up to your boss's boss, because they will have an influence on who gets the next job that maybe you have your hat in the ring for, okay? So let me transition now to what I personally look for in leaders. And this doesn't mean you have to have all of these, but to me this is a subset of things that I personally look for when I look for someone to manage a larger team, lead a bigger team, lead a project, an initiative. So take a few of these in. First one, results. I talked a little bit about that. If you don't turn in results, you're not going to get the respect of the organization, the team you're trying to lead, or anything else. So first and foremost, whatever job you get and whatever job you take, turn in results first and foremost. People that turn in results will get asked to do more things and more opportunities to lead. Be accountable, okay? Live to know your score, okay? Accept it when the score comes up, and don't try to explain it away, okay? There's way too many folks that say, yeah, we were shooting for this, we ended up a little bit short, and here's all the reasons why, okay? At the end of the day, the results are what count. Whatever show on the scoreboard is the score. You can have as many headliners and sports reporters at the end of the Fiesta Bowl saying, yeah, the Baylor quarterback threw too many bad passes, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, the score speaks for itself, okay? And there's no way you can explain it away. The score is the score. Have a competitive spirit. I am really, really big on that. Be extremely competitive and hate to lose. I was telling the dean earlier today, I'm a little bit more direct with some of our new employees because I get the opportunity to meet with all of our new college grads that come in, all of our technical sales and applications associates, and I got to meet with some of them a few weeks ago, and they were actually our technical sales associates and field applications associates that are just starting off. And I can tell you, this is the number one thing, particularly for that type of role. And my experience with them was, if you're not competitive as hell and hate to lose, then we'll find you a different role, okay? This is not the job for you. Please meet me afterwards and we'll find you something else. But this actually applies to every single job and every single role. Be competitive to turn in great results. Urgency. You know, move fast. This world moves fast already. But I look for leaders that are extremely urgent, because you're actually setting the bar. You're actually the one that's going to propel the team around you that you're leading to move faster. They're only going to run and work as hard and as fast as the leader that's leading the group, right? Think of that dog sleds. The lead dog leads the pack. And if he's running at 5 miles an hour, everybody else that's following that lead dog is running at 5 miles an hour. But if that lead dog is really ambitious, pushes the limits and running 10 miles an hour, faster than everybody else, that leader will pull the rest of the organization, the rest of the team, right along with them. So that urgency is absolutely critical as a leader of any team. Energy. If you don't have energy, and that doesn't mean I didn't have my cup of coffee, so I'm a little bit slow this morning. That means you bring energy and passion and love for what you stand for and what you're driving, okay, and what you're leading, right? You have to have that energy within the team, with maybe that's customers, other people inside the organization. When they see that energy, guess what? There's going to be other people that actually want to join that team. None of you guys want to be on a team with no energy, right? So think about how much influence and pull you can get, probably for the best of the best, inside of a small or large company to come join your team, just because you have energy and passion for what you're going after. That is a huge thing that you must have in terms of leadership. This one's pretty fun. It's hard to say 5 times real fast, but constructively unreasonable. So it's easy to be unreasonable, but can you be constructive in the way in which you do it? But also, this talks about how do you lead a team, push a team to get the yes when others say no, and all the history says it can't be done. Your ability to lead that team through that change, through that charge, through that initiative, to really get them to say yes, instead of looking in the past, to set those stretch objectives is really, really important. And to me, being constructively unreasonable is something great leaders can do and can lead an organization through that type of change. Last but not least, you need to have confidence. Not cocky, but confidence, okay? The world and the organization around you will wear you down, particularly if you're creating a lot of energy. You're leading from the front and you're pulling people along. You're convincing people to say yes instead of what they've always said no to. It will wear you down. So you having the confidence in what you believe in is really, really important, but really be humble. I mean, this is something that's extremely, extremely important for leaders, being extremely humble about the successes and the team, and really giving credit to the team for what you are seeing as successes across that organization in time. So that's a big one that I look for. Again, results, accountability, your competitive spirit, urgency and creating energy. To the last two, constructively unreasonable. Again, I'm going to get that wrong in a second if I say it one more time. And your self-confidence that you bring to the game. All right? So a bit on my journey. As I talked about, I started as a technical sales associate. I actually interviewed on campus right here. And I took this role because of a couple reasons. Number one, it paid pretty well, and I was tired of, scrounging around for beer money and food. Secondly, it lined up very, very well with kind of my makeup. I had been an athlete, as far back as I can see. I played football here and ran track, and I was extremely competitive. And to me, selling and still being connected to that technology was extremely important for me. And this was a great way for me to get into a big operation, a big corporation, to have many options in the future, but really leverage the strengths that I thought I had coming out of school. And so this was a great opportunity for me. It allowed me to work at a company that's, one of the world's largest semiconductor companies in the world. We have over 32,000 employees in 35 countries and a lot of revenue. I mean, the company's over $12 billion in revenue. So it allowed me to get my foot in the door at a really, really large company. Today, as I mentioned, I've changed roles probably 10 or 12 times in 18 years at the company. Different roles, moved around, and basically said yes to every opportunity that was brought to me. I never said no to anything that my manager, who I trusted a lot in all cases, that brought to me and gave me the opportunity to take. So today I run our analog business. It's a ton of fun. We make a lot of products. Analog might not sound that sexy to some of you guys, but it's a big, big space. I know you guys like to write software and all that kind of stuff. But, I stunk at software. We were writing in Fortran back then, and that was not my cup of tea. So, going back on the analog side is really where I feel more comfortable. But, we really have a great company. They've provided me some really cool opportunities to grow, to lead, and I'm really, really blessed to have had that opportunity. We also, just to close out, we also, as I talked about, have great opportunities, not for just new employees, but all employees, to have a job and learn your craft, but also to have other ways to be able to learn and grow and perform in time. A couple things here. This is a structured program that we have. It's called, get to it, Make an Impact, where we have a structured program for our new college grads that come in. It gives them opportunities to learn, take classes, learn about different opportunities, network, build those relationships that I talked about. So these are all ways in which you can lead and find ways to lead by learning more and understanding more about the company you're working in. So this is a great, great opportunity. I get to speak with all these individuals, and you get to meet a lot of leaders across the company. So it's something that we take very, very seriously inside of Texas Instruments, and something that actually helped me a lot as I was even coming through as a brand new employee at TI. So to close out, and I'll take some questions, remember you can be a leader from the start. There's many, many ways I talked about that you can lead and find opportunities to lead from the start. Please don't be daunted, if you go to a big company by all the cubes and the hallways and all that stuff. Start with results, start with being accountable and doing what you say you're going to do, and people will start noticing you the very first day you get on the team. Treat it like an adventure. Know where you're going and ask for help along the way. There are so many people that want to help you, coach you, mentor you along the way. Ask for that. Seek it out. Again, you own your training, you own your development. That's something you can go do. Last but not least, I think if you just do half of these things, a few of these things, hopefully you took a few nuggets of information and maybe some of the traps that I ran into over time. Hopefully, you'll take some of those and you'll stand out, right? And that's the first thing you want to go do as you jump into the workplace, is really find ways to stand out. So hopefully that helps you, and we'll take questions from here.
First, thank you, Brian.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask you the first question, which is
All right.
an easy one, very self-serving.
Okay.
So you said you should have a roadmap for the career.
Yep.
So at the end of the semester, if these guys got invited to a session by Eli Square to develop the roadmap, should
Yep.
they come?
Yes.
You heard that, right? It's not me, it's Brian.
With one caveat.
Oh boy.
Put your roadmap in pencil, not in pen. Because what you think the roadmap is today may change. And you may learn that what you thought you wanted to do, when you learn more about it, is not really what you thought it was from the outside looking in. and maybe not what you really want to go do. So my only thing would be have it in pencil so you can change course if you need to.
Hey, so related to that, so I get a couple questions.
Yep.
So you said, hey, you ought to talk to your boss, understand your boss's priorities, her priorities, and maybe you start to figure out there is a difference.
Yep.
And I need to have the plan in pencil. So how do they go have this conversation with their boss that says, hey, boss, maybe because that's a tough conversation.
Yeah, it's a tough conversation. I have it a lot, actually. Sometimes don't assume you're not lined up with the priorities. You just may be indirectly affecting them. So it could be a misconception, and so go into that conversation asking the question, am I aligned with the priorities, and how is my job personally impacting the priorities that you have, to ensure that maybe you're not missing something. The majority of those conversations I have, they don't really understand how they connect to that priority. And if the role you're having is not providing as much impact as you'd like it to have, find ways to continue to do that role. But are there other special projects or initiatives that your boss could have you be on a flex team to start contributing more to other things, which could also lead to another direction, down the road?
Okay. One other question. You started out and you said, hey, when I first job, I was afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
Why would you be afraid to ask a question?
You're asking questions potentially in a room with teammates that have been doing this for 20 years, 5 years, definitely probably longer than you have. So I don't know about you guys, it doesn't feel great to look like the dumbest guy in the room, right? Or ask a dumb question. The good news is I kind of have call it a 6-month rule. The first 6 months in a new job, you should be able to ask any question you want, whether it's a first-time employee to the CEO of the company. The first 6 months, you're still learning, and you should be asking as many questions as you can. Because I call it the grace period. You have a 6-month grace period to ask questions that may be crazy, out of the box, and challenge the status quo, or potentially just to learn. So I say a 6-month span is really perfect. And just go into it with that mindset and ask anything you want. If you don't feel like asking in a bigger group, go talk to people offline, right? So don't just let your question go unanswered if you're uncomfortable in a room with many more people. Find ways to go figure that out on your own afterwards.
I've got more questions, but questions for Brian?
Go ahead, shoot, anything. Yeah, in the back.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming out and speaking.
Sure.
Appreciate it for everybody.
No problem, anytime.
I have a question about, as a alumnus from UCF, I believe, I took the path of doing development work.
Uh-huh.
It sounds like you took a technical sales
Yep.
path. Perhaps you can talk a little bit about, from our perspective, there's really those two paths that you can take.
Mhm.
So what kind of is your thoughts on, for students here, what path do you take?
Great question. So this question was around, if you look at it coming out of school, and even if you look inside companies, typically there's more of I would call it a sales, business, marketing, management track, and then there's also more of a technical ladder track that you can run through from that perspective. I think, to me, at least my position is get in the door with your first role, and really seek to understand really what you want to do over time, back to putting that roadmap in place. You may think you know what it is right now, but make sure it's in pencil, because when you get in, you may find that you like things on the technical side way better, or you may like things on more of the business side a little bit better. I was an okay engineer, but I'm not a designer, okay? I'm not a product developer, but I've learned over time, after running these teams, how to be pretty lethal in asking the right questions and having domain knowledge around those things. So it doesn't mean if you pick one path or the other that you can't be effective leading one or the other, and also being involved in either one of those groups. I also think that there's a bit of a misconception that once you pick a path that you can't change, okay? I've seen many technical designers lead a business. I was actually just at a customer in the Midwest this week with one of the business unit owners that started in design and was a designer, was an applications engineer, and then moved over to actually run a business. And so you can actually leverage from either direction that you come from, you leverage skills and knowledge that you learn. So don't feel like you have to stay on one path or the other, and find ways to get involved in projects that are outside what you do today. So for example, in his case, he's on the design path, find ways to get involved on the business side, indirectly or on part of a flex team, to get yourself more ingrained and moving down that path if you decide to change.
To help, why don't you guys step up to the mic? Just a little bit,
That's
that'll be
fine.
easier to help
That's all right.
people here.
So you mentioned the importance of having energy as a leader. So when the world wears you down, how do you maintain that energy?
Yeah, good question. It's not drinking coffee, although I drink a lot more coffee today than I used to when I started. To me, it's finding little successes. The higher you go and the more responsibility you have, the less good things come to your desk. Okay? So a lot of problems land on my personal desk, more than the great successes. But to me, it's understanding what some of those successes are and celebrating some of those with the team members. But also, I get a ton of energy on fixing things. So it's great when people bring me issues, or I meet with Rob in the back this morning about some product-related challenges that he's having with some of my products. That gives me energy. I like to solve things, I like to fix things, I like to make things better. So those things give me energy, and the more I have of those, the more energy I get. So you've just got to, it depends on the type of personality. Some people get a ton of energy off a lot of different successes, so you can build those up and get energy. Or you can get energy like me off things that are broken. And that's just an opportunity for me to get engaged and make it better. So hopefully that answered your question. Hi. You make him come up to the mic. Man.
Okay, so the two routes we're talking about here would be technical and then business / sales.
Okay.
I'm asking though, sales and business, are those the same route?
There's a lot of business-related roles that you could get into, so we can just keep them in those categories for now, for sake of discussion.
And you know what, Brian, and you shared that chart with us last year. If you don't mind, I'll share it with this group.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Yep.
we can do that.
Yeah.
So I guess if you go the sales route, which I'm thinking about right now, do you get more exposure to different types of technology? I would assume you do probably, so in a sense it might be as educational as staying technical.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as a manager, I know you're more just talking to people, telling them what to do, so that's not yeah, but as sales, you're actually having to know these products intimately, so you have to have the details.
You are correct.
Okay, so
There are different levels of technical. Okay, let me put it that way. And I think, as Tim was saying, there's different types of roles. I think there's probably close to 15 types of engineers that we have inside of Texas Instruments, for example. We have business-related roles, marketing roles, strategic marketing roles, sales, field up. So your comment was dead on. That's the one thing I loved when I was in sales, was my ability to talk to a lot of different customers, be really current on cool products that were coming into the marketplace that either you buy or you see integrated in another product. But it also allowed me to stay technical on a lot of different technologies. And then, for example, we've seen people who really love a certain technology through sales or applications really go that route on the technical side. I really love power components, or I really love digital signal processing. And so then they switch back over to the technical side and drive down that path. And others have stayed, of course, on the business side. So your comments are dead on.
awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a good career path for me. I was just
Yep.
trying to get you to elaborate on it. Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
You said know your strengths when you're looking for teammates, you want to use your strengths in mind. Would you say that's more for improving where you are strong or finding holes to fill your deficiencies? And kind of to go along with that, are you also looking for leaders and teammates?
Yes. So I would say yes to all, but let me see if I can expand a little bit. I look at it from whether it's a project that you're working on, a project you're leading, or a team you're managing. All of the above. I look for a team that brings different diversity, different experiences, all into the same group. So for example, if you look at my leadership team today that's on my team, and you came to one of our staff meetings, you would see 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 different diverse people from different nationalities, and male, female, et cetera, different experiences, maybe came from different companies. So I actually look to form something that can make us stronger as a whole and make more diversity of thought based on that experience. Now, on a project, you may be looking for a really great software guy because you're not that great. Maybe you're the team lead. Maybe you're not that great in software like me. So guess what? My best buddies when I was here at UCF were programming guys, right? Because I stunk at it, right? So they helped me learn. And then when we did projects, I stuck on the hardware side and they stuck on the software side, and actually allowed us to move faster, actually made our products and the projects that we were working on a lot better. So it doesn't mean you can't learn those areas, because I was along the way, but in terms of leveraging my strengths, you will learn over time what you're good at, and you'll probably be more successful if you fine-tune your roles and responsibilities around those. Okay?
Thank you.
One last time, let us thank Ryan Crutcher.
Yeah, thanks.